The new Walther PP. Let's check it out. The Walther PPK was used by military, police, civilians for decades. But what really skyrocketed the popularity of the PPK was the James Bond series, where he carried a PPK for many years. But there is a lesser-known older brother, and that's the PP. Again, used by military and police through the German Army and all throughout the world. It has a little bit longer slide barrel. This was designed in 1929. The Walther PPK was designed in 1931. But production ceased in 1999. And now Walther has reintroduced the PP. This comes in 380 or 32 ACP. It is an excellent concealed carry handgun, very thin, very reliable, very legendary. It is all steel, so it gives it a little bit of weight, but it's really comfortable to carry. And to be honest with you, I was shocked and excited when Walther announced they were going to reintroduce the PP model. And so I want to give a big thank you to Walther for including us in the launch for the PP. The Walther PP was one of the first double action pistols that was successful. And it's great to see the legend live on. I am really glad that Walther decided to bring this back. This is one of those iconic type firearms that has a lot of history behind it. With the Germans during World War II, this was one of the sidearms that a lot of officers really loved. It's a little bit larger than your PPK, and we're going to take a look at some of the differences with the PPK, also with an older PP, and do a little bit of comparison. But this is very finely made. I mean, it is a beautiful handgun. Walther did an incredible job, and this not only comes in a stainless steel, it also comes in a black finish as well. And it comes in 380 ACP like this one, but it also comes in 32 ACP, which was the original caliber for the PP. Now before we get started, we've got a mag release right up here. Let's go ahead and drop our 7-round magazine, and then let's check the chamber, and the gun's empty. Now this is a double single action pistol, and it has a magazine disconnect, which I don't like magazine disconnects, but that was the way it was designed. So you have to insert the magazine to pull the trigger, and it actuates the trigger. With the hammer in the rear position though, if you load a round in and you bring down your safety, it's a decocker. And there is a transfer bar that blocks it. And then when you want to fire it, just bring it up and you're ready to fire, and obviously you have a red dot there. Also, we have a beaver tail right here. Now on the originals, and we'll look at it a little closer in a minute, this has been extended with the new model, and it just really helps from slide bite. If you have meaty hands, large hands, you can have this slide go across your hand. And so this just gives you added protection, and so it really makes it a lot more pleasurable to shoot, especially since you're not getting cut on your hand. But has a very natural grip to it. Again, this was one of the very first double action semi-automatic pistols that was successful, and it has been extremely successful. One of the other big pluses for this handgun, it is a blowback design, which means that the gases, when they are propelled, it works the slide back. With blowback actions, a lot of times they can be a little snappy, a little harsh. But I find that the PP actually shoots better than the PPK, and a lot of that has to do with a little longer barrel and also a little more slide mass, just to weigh it down a little bit. Now this is an all steel framed handgun, so it's got some weight to it, but some of that is comforting when you're at the range, and that's also going to absorb some of the recoil. The barrel is 3.9 inches in length. And again, it does come out. One thing I love though about this handgun is it's so dehorned. I mean, everything is very smooth. It is made as a concealed carry piece. The sights, we have a red dot at the front. It's milled into the slide. And then here at the back, they're just combat sights. Have a notch with a red insert. Now this gives you, to me, a better sight picture with those red, but with the originals, they had a white dot, and actually it wasn't too bad, but it's still a very snag-free design. And then you'll notice this rib right here on the top of the slide, beautifully machined with these waved lines, and this just cuts down on any kind of glare, especially with stainless steel. Now the hammer is one of those commander style hammers, and it comes back right against the beaver tail. There is a notch in that beaver tail, and again we can just bring down our decocker and we can have this ready to fire. Has these black polycarbonate grips with texturing, of course the Walther banner, and then there is no texturing on the back or front strap. With this little finger groove on the magazine, it does help to just kind of lock your hand in. But you also get a magazine that's just a flush base plate, and that just makes it a little bit easier to conceal. And of course, these magazines are nickel plated, they're very slick, they're very smooth. And that's just going to aid in reliability. And that's one of the things about the Walthers is they are known for their reliability, but they're also known for their accuracy. A lot of that has to do with the fixed barrel. And so the barrel is actually attached to the frame, and it just keeps a very solid connection between the barrel and the frame, and it just lends to really good accuracy, even with this smaller handgun. The mag release being up here was a little different because a lot of the Europeans had the hill type magazine release, and so this gave it that normal, even though it's not right behind the trigger guard, it does help and aid in getting to it instead of reaching down here to disengage your magazine. Now these are made by Walther in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and that's where the Walther USA headquarters is. Now the serrations are tight, but they're easy to grab, and also the decocker does aid in able to just pull that slide back. But one of the things about these handguns is that if you rack the slide on an empty magazine, you can't release it. There is no slide stop. There's no slide release. And you have to drop the magazine, at least partially, out of the way so you can drop your slide. And so that's just one of those little things, messing with these handguns. It's kind of a pain at times, but it's just the way that it functions. But obviously, with a loaded magazine, it doesn't hold the slide back, so it enters the round. Now, while Walther has just reintroduced the Model PP, it's also introduced the PPK in .32 ACP, and it has a threaded barrel. And so we're going to be doing a review on this one as well, but this is a brand new offering. And the funny thing is, .32 ACP has come back with a number of different companies. In fact, the Tomcat by Beretta, they introduced 2 new versions, and so just it's nice to see additions to .32. It's one of those calibers that is super easy to shoot, and again the PP does come in .32 ACP as well. So now here is the PPK, and then we have the PP. The biggest differences are in the grip. We have 7+1, a little bit longer grip. With the PPK, we have 6+1. Also, the PPK grip actually comes all the way around. So you do get some texturing here. And so that's definitely a departure from the all-steel backstrap we have on the PP. Also, we have a shorter barrel. And so the barrels being shorter, during the Gun Control Act of 1968, these were not allowed to be imported into the country because they were considered Saturday night specials. Walther fixed that by bringing production to the U.S. under different licensed manufacturers. But then they started making the PPK-S, which has the grip of the PP and then the slide of the PPK. But really, the PPK became majorly iconic because of the James Bond series, and he carried a PPK, but originally he was carrying a Beretta Model 418 in 25 ACP. So he really had made an upgrade with the PPK. And of course, later James Bond movies, they were carrying the P99 and different guns because this is really 6+1, and that's not a lot of round capacity, especially for James Bond. And this particular model was made in Alexandria, Virginia through Inner Arms. Now let's look at one of the original PPs. This is a older version. I got this used. It's just imported into the U.S. In fact, it was imported by Century Arms. There's even the markings right here. I did a full review on this handgun a number of years ago. Pretty much everything is the same as far as the functioning, as far as most of the features. The one thing that they added with the new model, and this was much needed, is this extended beaver tail, or this tang. This gives you a lot more protection than this shorter beaver tail, because if you get your hand up and they are meaty, this thing will tear you up. And so a lot of people were really calling for that little bit of a longer beaver tail, which they added with the PPKS. It has a little bit longer. And for that matter, the PPK in 32 has that beaver tail tang, which again, just protects your hand. You can get some slide bite and you really will quit enjoying taking these out to the range. And of course, the all steel blue, and again, this was a favorite with the German military. This one is made in Germany. Again, my brother does have one of the Manurins, which was made in France. And I'll tell you guys, it's such an accurate gun, and that's one of the reasons why I really fell in love, especially with the PP, because his is a PP in 32 ACP. And I got the 380, and I just loved it. It gives me a little more ballistic advantage. But these have been, you know, on the used market, and the prices have been really high. And so it's really nice to see, again, Walther coming in and really making a beautiful handgun. I mean, this thing is elegant. Now, being double action and single action, for me to fire the handgun in double action, it is a very heavy trigger pull. And so we pull it, and there we go. And it really moves fast. That hammer moves really quick. And we're going to test the trigger pull weight out, but I'm not really sure if my trigger pull gauge will gauge this, and we're going to find out. Now, in single action, a little bit of take up right to here. And I say a little bit, that's a good bit of take up. But once it hits right here, it is a really nice break. And then let's check reset. It is not very audible and really not tactile, but I can feel the reset just barely. And there it is. Trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge. I'll tell you guys, this will not do it. This is maxing out and it's not going to get it. I would say that this is probably 12 pounds. It is heavy. And if you'll notice when I was shooting in the video, and I had a couple of examples here, it was so hard to pull back that when I did, it actually made me jump just a touch. And then subsequent shots, the hammer's back. And so let's check the trigger pull weight on our single action. 3 pounds, 12 ounces. I mean, it's a very nice trigger with single action, a very heavy trigger in double action. I mean, you've got to mean to pull that. But here with the original PP, it definitely is heavy, but it's a little smoother. And I think one of the things that's going to happen is the more you shoot this, it's going to smooth out. And so again, this is a brand new gun. We took it out to the range, shot 250 rounds through it today, and it was very reliable. But I think that that's going to make it a little easier, especially once you kind of break it in. Now, as far as weight, 24.36 ounces. I mean, it is, for a very small concealable pistol, it does have some weight to it. To give you a comparison, let's put on the Glock 19 Gen 5, 24 ounces. So the PPK weighs about the same weight as your Glock 19, but you can see a real thin slide. This is going to be easier to conceal and easier to carry, but this is also going to give you 15 plus 1, while this is going to give you 7 plus 1. I want to give a big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring our ammo, all made in the USA, one of the biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. These little magazines didn't take long to load. Obviously we got 7 rounds, just good shot placement. Guys, when I'm down at the range, I usually talk about how the gun shoots, how it feels right there at the range. For some reason, when I was at the range, I just forgot. So I'm going to go through some things about the shooting experience. First off, it is a blowback action, which means that it has a little more coming back in your hand. I find, though, that with this heavier frame, it really is mild to shoot. And again, I don't know if it's just the longer barrel and a little bit longer slide, but I enjoy shooting this more than the PPK. It's not a handful, but it's just a little more recoil than what you would think for this size pistol. The grip is very natural. It points very well. The balance of the handgun just makes it very easy just to point it in that direction and just to get on target really quickly. But the extended beaver tail definitely helps. It gives you a little more surface at the web of your hand, and it allows you just to control it better. And that could be part of it as well. It's very smooth action, and whether you're shooting it slow and just taking your time, or you want to shoot it fast and, you know, those rapid shots, you can. I mean, it just handles very well and tracks very well. I also like to shoot it with one hand, just testing it out, seeing how it will feel. The recoil impulse is different when you're shooting with one hand. And so you need to be training with that in case for some reason you only have one hand, and that includes weak hand. The sight's low profile, but I seem to be able to pick them up pretty easily. This is a very pointable gun, so really the sights, while they're needed, definitely you could shoot this gun just straight off the top of the slide. The grip was enough texturing. I never felt like this was loose in my hand. I felt like it was good and secure. Now, one thing with the double single action, the double action trigger pull is heavy. And so when you're firing it at the range, that first shot can be a doozy. In fact, it'll surprise you. But the subsequent shots, you get right back on target. And really, guys, you need to train with that double action, that hammer in the down position. Drop your decocker, shoot it in the double action mode, because you're not going to carry it single action. So that first shot is going to be double action. You need to know what to expect. But overall, it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun, and there's just something about this handgun that just really has stood the test of time. And taking it to the range and shooting it, you understand why. Of course, obviously, limited round capacity, you know, is one thing about this handgun. 7 rounds, especially in a modern world where you can carry a much smaller, lighter handgun with 10 to 12 to 15 plus 1. All right, for disassembly, we're going to drop our magazine, check the chamber again, make sure that it's unloaded. Traditionally, just grab your trigger guard and just set it on the side of your frame. Sometimes it'll pop back, but what we want to do now is bring back our slide, and we're going to lift up. So we bring it back, lift up, and then it comes out. Now our trigger came back up, but there we go. And then we have our recoil spring and the slide. It is really simple to disassemble. And so here is your recoil spring. I mean, it's just a standard coil spring. Here is the barrel being fixed to the frame. And you can see right here that it's actually built in. The chamber itself is built into the frame. And then the barrel comes out. But this does lend itself to really good accuracy. You can see that, I mean, it's very simple, but a very well machined handgun. Your slide rails actually are just right here at the back, but they're fairly extensive compared to a lot of your polymer striker fire pistols. Here's the slide, and of course a little dirty from shooting today, but guys, these are made extremely well, very well made, very well machined. Now for reassembly, just bring your trigger guard down again. You may have to hold this down as you place in your slide. We're going to go ahead and put on our spring. We're going to bring our slide back over the spring, and you want the barrel to go through the slide, and then just bring it on back and get it past the slide rails. There we go. And so then we can bring that in. I've had a number of different PPKs and PPs that sometimes will not rest on the frame when you pull this down. But really, it's easy to overcome. And then we're going to insert our magazine, and we're going to test for function, point the gun in safe direction, pull the trigger, and we are back in business. Very simple. And guys, a cleaning kit recommendation would be Otis Technology. They've been making cleaning kits for decades. And they are the official supplier for the U.S. military for their cleaning supplies. Also, their little tactical kit, which this is a cleaning kit that wraps up. You do have bore snakes or rip cords in here, and this is something the U.S. military carries in the field. So great little kits. Also, they own Shooter's Choice, and they have all the different bore solvents and CLP. So a great way to keep your firearms maintained, and we really appreciate Otis for being one of our channel sponsors. Manufacturer suggested retail price is $969. Market price is going to be less. Now you're going to think, man, that's high. I mean, that's expensive. I'll tell you guys, your PPKs on the used market, even some that are in rough condition, I have not seen any that were under $800 to $850, and that's used. And that's if you can find them. That's one of the things. But with the PP, again, this is a brand new offering, and even the old used handguns are bringing a premium price. Especially if you have a few Nazi markings on here, it really ups the collector value. And so with this coming out just now, we'll see how prices kind of settle out on the market. What are some pros and cons? First off, this is an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. I mean, this thing is beautiful. No, it's not a lightsaber, but man, it is so well machined. This is definitely a gentleman's gun. And so the price really is not as important to some. And it brings back that iconic Walther PP and PPK design from Walther. It's snag-free, so it's an excellent concealed carry as far as the way that you can carry this. Now, one con is it's definitely heavy. I mean, this weighs the same as your Glock 19. But it's super thin, and really, if you're carrying a Glock 19, carrying this wouldn't add any more weight, but it would be less rounds. You know, you have 7 rounds in the magazine. With a Glock 19, you have 15 rounds. The price is a con to some. That's not a budget handgun, but it takes a lot more to machine double single action pistols than polymer striker fire pistols, and that includes the frame. They're not injected molded. There's a lot of hand fitting that goes into these to make sure that these are aligned properly and they have tight tolerances. It's a lot more labor intensive and actually has a little more higher quality in the metal versus just polymer. I mean, these are proven designs. They're very reliable. They're very accurate. And really, adding this extended beaver tail to me is a huge plus for the PP series. Sights, you know, they're adequate. They're low profile. They do have the red dot. You're able to see it, but there's nothing you can really do with these sights. You can't put night sights on it. I mean, they're milled into the slide, so you've got what you've got. Love this beautiful wave serrations on the top. It's very smooth, but it really is going to be effective. But it's just beautiful. And that's one of the appeals of this handgun, is it just has those lines, really a beauty of engineering and what the Germans are really good at. So overall, anyone that wants to carry this is just going to carry it because it's a PP or a PPK. And they just like the way that that feels, and that's fine. And there are guys also like me that want to make sure that I have as many rounds as possible. I have all the ballistic advantage. This is 380 ACP, and again, it comes in 32 ACP. So you have to decide, is that a caliber you want to carry? But I think a lot of people that are going to purchase these are buying them just because it's a Walther PP. And it's back in the United States, and it's just one of those more collectible handguns and something they want to carry to a barbecue or maybe go out to dinner, and they want to be very discreet. And they want to feel a little bit like James Bond. So while firearm technology has completely changed over the past 100 years, there are a lot of original designs that are still viable today. This is not a polymer frame striker fire pistol with a high round capacity, but it is a very effective self-defense, easy to carry firearm. And it has that legendary reliability of the Walther. And also, it's a very elegant and beautiful gun. And again, a huge thank you to Walther for sending the Walther PP and 380 ACP for this review. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Be strong, be of good courage. Courage, be of good courage. Pistols that has been, you know, just, I don't even know where it's been. Where's this thing been? Gotta get all this straightened out. You mean I don't? Yeah, I do. You mean I don't? So the world has changed. Okay, I feel like I've jumped all over the place. Let's just calm the heck down. The PPK was used in World War I. No, it wasn't. It wasn't used in World War I. It wasn't made till 1929. Okay. Okay. What am I doing? I got a PP. Yay!